The Sword of Omens is the greatest weapon of them all.
Thundercats!
Welcome back, Thundercats fans! Today we're going to talk about Thundera, the place the Thundercats hailed from. We only hear about Thundera from them after they washed up on the shores of Third Earth. Back when the original run was airing, we all kinda accepted that Lion-O lost Thundera. We never really thought much about how or why the apocalypse even took place. But now, with so many comic books available, it's very easy to dive into the lore. And let me tell you, the story of Thundera is not what I expected at all. And I'll bet that once you hear what actually went down in Thundera, you'll feel the same way. So without further ado, let's see what happened to Thundera, shall we?
Thundercats!
So what was Thundera like? To put it simply, Thundera is basically the right kind of mix of sci-fi civilizations and fantasy kingdoms. It's a world where, even though everything looked like it was straight out of a medieval fantasy kingdom, like with stone temples and everything, but each of those houses had technology that definitely had no business being there. You know what I mean? From all the brief glimpses we get of Thundera from episodes like Time Capsule and memories that are stored in Book of Omens, Thundera looked like a beautiful paradise. I would definitely go there if I could. Look at how green it is. And the Thunderians were basically guardians. Their code of truth, honor, justice, and loyalty meant a lot to them. They possessed technology that's far beyond the technology we see on Third Earth. But still, they chose to fight with melee weapons and wear ceremonial armor. Why? My guess is their culture still valued personal skills and discipline more than remote destruction. They knew justice needed to be upheld, and they were ready to hand out justice as personally as possible, because that's where the honor lies, isn't it? So, you have a race that had a code of honor so strong that even though they could blow people away with one press of a button, they chose to excel in hand-to-hand combat for honor. Now, the question is, how did a civilization that's this advanced, this disciplined, vanish out of nowhere? I mean, they had scientists, seers, and the Eye of Thundera itself, which eventually became the source of the sword's power. They had everything that would protect them against any kind of danger if some should come their way. And still, they got wiped out. When the royal flagship left with the Thundercats, that marked something significant. Think about Superman. When Jor-El figured out Krypton was done for, he sent Kal-El away. Why? Was it just to save his son? Yes, but it was also to make sure that Krypton could live on in a way, no? Kal-El and Kara Zor-El were both kids who were sent away so that the culture, the ideology, and of course that they could live on. Now, both of them were babies when they were sent away. Kara a bit older than Kal-El, but in my eyes she was still a baby mentally, right? There wasn't much they could have done anyway. But the Thundercats weren't like that. See, Jaga, Panthro, Tigra, Chitara, and the others were nobility. Effectively, they were protectors, so they did have a job, rather a responsibility to protect Thundera, but they couldn't. So from their cultural perspective, you could say that they broke a promise, and the peace that Thundera brought on disappeared with the destruction of their world. Maybe that's why whenever Lion-O looks at the Sword of Omens, he looks sad. Because from his perspective, he's holding the last piece of the world that should have lasted forever, but didn't, and he couldn't do anything about it, you know? Let's go back to the pilot episode of the show. In the pilot, rightfully titled Exodus, we see the catastrophe take place. We, as the audience, are dropped directly into the middle of the chaos. The surface of Thundera is already cracking. There are tremors that are no doubt tearing cities apart. There's panic on the streets, and we know that this is not a drill. The royal flagship is one of the very few vessels that actually managed to escape, taking young Lion-O and the Thunderian nobles. And while all of this is happening, we can see the mutants of Plundar hanging about. They're attacking the fleeing fleet, trying to destroy the ships that are there to save people. I feel like when fans discuss the destruction of Thundera, they often forget this detail. I mean, not only is this planet getting destroyed because of the tremors, but their friends and families were actually under attack because the mutants just wouldn't quit. Jaga, who's the leader of the evacuation, decides to make the ultimate sacrifice. The ship's navigation computer was damaged during the mutant attack, and he knew that they wouldn't make it to their destination. So instead, he decides to pilot the ship to the closest planet, Third Earth. He knew that he wouldn't survive the travel because of the flight, but he knew he had to do it. So he commanded everyone else to go into the suspension capsules and sacrificed himself by steering the ship until his body failed due to rapid aging. His death is to make sure the memory of Thundera lives on. And then we get to see the most horrifying aspect of Thundercats go down. Lion-O goes into the capsule as a 12-year-old boy. However, while he sleeps in the capsule, due to some malfunction or something else, his body continues to age. So when the ship crashes on Third Earth, we see him quite literally being a man-child. He's a grown warrior, but with the mind of a preteen. Lion-O literally paid for his survival with his childhood. All the learning and growing that should have happened didn't happen at all. The show makes it very clear that no matter how powerful or scientifically equipped they were, there was no way the Thunderians would have been able to save their planet. It was almost like the planet was meant to be destroyed, by hook or by crook. and the reason we were given at first was natural geographic instability. Sounds pretty plausible, right? With the visuals we saw and the tremors, cracks, and everything, yeah, about that. For years, fans took this information at face value. What could we do anyway? But then, as years went by and the fandom started to grow, fans started to question the simple answer. Why would a stable planet that was home to a tech-savvy civilization suddenly detonate? Someone must have seen something or known something, and this gave rise to theories. A very popular theory is that Thunderians actually mine their planet to death. We know that Thunderians utilize Thundrillium as their power source, which was this volatile energy. This Thundrillium was also why the mutants kept attacking Thundera. So when you have something as powerful as Thundrillium, it makes sense to think that maybe Thunderians built their utopia using that mineral. That way, we can say that Thundera got destroyed because the entire core resources of the planet were stripped away. The environmental parallels with our Earth are very obvious, and I totally understand why fans drew this conclusion. The idea that even the most advanced society can destroy itself if they don't respect nature is a message I can get behind. If you believe this theory, you'll also notice how ironic it sounds when you compare it with Thundera's code of honor. So the Thunderians cared about honor and truth, but couldn't care less about the environment? While I do enjoy the irony of this theory, I don't quite like it because personally, I don't think it would happen. Another popular fan speculation is that this was the doing of the mutants. See, fans believe that maybe the mutants actually made some kind of doomsday weapon. They discharged it, and that's why Thundera was destroyed. I mean, if you have no battlefield to fight on and no army to fight with, that's a battle won, right? Some fans believe that the Thundercats are victims of interstellar genocide, and I can understand their perspective. I did think it was awfully convenient that mutants from Thundera would show up just as everything is getting destroyed to kill some Thunderians. But the most compelling and arguably darkest answer to the question, what happened to Thundera, is given to us in the show. In the second season episode titled Thunder Cubs, we learn something so horrifying, so out of left field, that it completely reframes the story we're told until now. So, up until that point, we were told that Jaga, the Wide-Faced, had faced off against Ratilla, this ancient villain who had beef with Thundera for a while, back in the day. Now, Ratilla had the Sword of Plundar. This was a double-edged blade of evil power which was capable of rivaling the Sword of Omens. Jaga wanted to destroy the evil sword, but he couldn't do it. So instead, he threw it into the molten core of Thundera to hopefully seal it away forever. Walk with me here because I'm about to tell you something that's so crazy. Could it be that the Sword of Plundar wanted to escape the planet's gravity and kept radiating dark energy into the planetary core for years? You know what that means, right? This means this Sword of Plundar is the reason Thundera was destroyed in the first place. The planet was getting destroyed from the inside because of the radiating evil, which means all of this happened because of Jaga, the spirit guide who sacrificed himself to save Lion-O when he was living, and continues to help Lion-O through tough times, literally planted the bomb that destroyed their planet. So that means this natural disaster wasn't natural at all. It was man-made and done out of a tactical error. Jaga saved the world from Ratilla, yes, but at the cost of the entire civilization. So now, knowing this, you have to wonder if Jaga was being noble when he sacrificed himself, or was he just atoning for the destruction he caused? And when you hold on to this theory, you also have to consider the ancient spirits of evil theory as well. Did Mum-Ra's Dark Masters influence the sword's reaction? I mean, it is an evil sword, and those Dark Masters clearly have a lot of power. And with the way Mum-Ra behaves, I can totally see the destruction of the Eye of Thundera's home being something that Mum-Ra would enjoy. I mean, think about it. The Sword of Omens draws powers from the Eye, and the Eye is tied to the planet. If there's no planet, then there's nothing charging up the Eye, which means there's nothing charging up the sword, and now the cats are weakened, and Mum-Ra can defeat them. But then we got the 2011 reboot, where we got a more literal approach. In this reboot, we saw Thundera falling to a military siege and internal betrayal by Groon. Pretty realistic, right? But this is not where the theories of what happened to Thundera end. You also have the Wildstorm comics version. So according to the comics, the Thunderian High Council knew that there was instability before Thundera started falling apart. And what did they do? They sat in a room and argued about it for hours instead of evacuating common citizens. It was Jaga who managed to go through the red tape and sent out an evacuation order. But it was already too late for most of the citizens. As a fan, when I go through all the theories, I definitely have different feelings about them. I mean, sure, this 2011 reboot thing is the most believable and grounded, but that's all very lame. Same for the comic one. Yeah, the civilization is drowned by their own hubris that they ignored the literal warning bell, because why not? I mean, it's cool and all, but I like the idea of the planet being poisoned by evil from the inside a lot more. Because that means Thundera's destruction was set forth by their greatest hero, and I like my morning cartoons with a healthy dose of irony, please and thank you. So many theories, and they all end the same way. The tragedy falls on the shoulders of Lion-O. The young prince was training to take the throne, but now with no Thundera and no throne to take, he's left wandering with a weight on his shoulders that no one should have to deal with. He's king now, but who is he the king of? A handful of survivors in the fortress they live in. When he holds the Sword of Omens, he's literally holding his people in his arms. The Eye of Thundera is the heart of their world that is now preserved in crystal and steel, and whenever he uses the power of the Eye, he's using the power of a dead planet to survive the present. Another key aspect of his character that's just traumatic is how he aged in the capsule. He has no sense of self left when he comes out of the Third Earth. He's no longer the boy he remembered, and the man who looks back at him is not someone he knows. He's no longer a king because everything and everyone he knew, except the survivors, are gone. Perhaps that's why every other Thundercat is so protective of Lion-O. They see the young boy that he was, the man that he is, and the man that he could have been if all of this tragedy hadn't happened. I also believe that the rivalry between Lion-O and Mum-Ra is also related to the destruction of Thundera. See, Mum-Ra is evil that is bound to Third Earth. Lion-O, on the other hand, is young and without roots, so he knows that his planet and everything he knew was destroyed because of evil, and now with Mum-Ra being here, his second home is in danger. So Lion-O fights a lot, desperately trying to triumph over evil at any cost, because in his eyes, this is a fight of good versus evil, and this time evil has to lose. As long as he keeps winning, he keeps drawing, he keeps fighting, Thundera stays alive. He knows what it's like to have your world, your home, your people, everything you hold dear to your heart being snatched away, and he would rather die than watch it happen again. So, I believe that the destruction of Thundera, while being one of the defining events in the 80s and leaving us all hankering for more, is also a tale that is better unresolved. No matter what answer we get, none of them would do the story the justice it deserves. By leaving it kinda unresolved in the original run, we were able to get involved with the characters in an intimate way that I doubt we would have done had we gotten an answer. With that, we come to the end of our video. Let us know what you guys think about the destruction of Thundera. Do you think it was just a natural calamity, or do you think it was because of the Sword of Plundar? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care!